So now we're going to inspect the roof structure, section F1. It's my least favourite part of the job, and it's the least glamorous part of the job. My wife would definitely not do this job because she doesn't like spiders or cobwebs. It is, in fact, one of the more important sections of the job, along with E2 roof coverings, E4 main walls and E3 rainwater goods, because you can tell quite a lot about a property from the roof structure, and we'll have a look at that now. And so here we can see that the secondary felt lining is quite severely torn, as it is in a number of places. There's two different felts. There's the more modern plastic felt, which was replaced sort of circa 1980, either at the time of the extension or shortly thereafter. But then elsewhere we have this older felt, which is brittle and on its way out and ultimately needs to be replaced. And so here we have a very small wasp's nest, fairly common. This is about as small as they get. They're usually inactive, as this one probably is. We can see trays of rat poison, so that is, or at least have been, rodents, which again is fairly common, nothing particularly to worry about, particularly in a 200-year-old house. And so here around this chimney stack we have some rot to the timber, quite a lot of it in fact. Although if I test it with my damp meter, there are no damp readings, and on this stack from the outside we saw that the flashings have been replaced with nice new lead flashings, which would appear to have resolved the problem, and so this rot is historic. It doesn't represent a particular issue, and all that is required is when the roof is next stripped and relaid, they'll probably just replace this section of timber here, so that's not a major problem. So generally throughout the roof space there is evidence of wood-boring beetle infestation or woodworm, which can also encompass death watch beetle, but I do not believe that to be the case here. So there is widespread historic woodworm. In most cases it's probably inactive, however there are one or two sections where this does appear to be active, and you can tell by the frass, it's called frass, or the dust that is created when the beetle leave the timber. Okay, so back into the world of the living. That's the least glamorous part of the job. I am now going to go outside and brush myself off. Okay, so now I'm going to close up the loft hatch, take the ladder down. I will take particular care when I'm taking the ladder down. I'm going to collapse the ladder, and then I'm going to put my hand over so that the ladder doesn't mark the wall. If I put my hand there, then I can climb up, put the loft hatch back. And that's the roof structure. So now we're going to look at the ceilings, so section F2 ceilings. In this flat there are a combination of lath and plaster ceilings. These were superseded after the Second World War with plasterboard. It's easy to tell by, well, either from within the roof space you can see the laths, or you can just tap. And there we've got a dull thud, and they're lath and plaster ceilings. The older ones can be problematic, and they can just fail at any time. But these ones generally appear okay, they're not spongy. So we'll go and have a look at the ceilings through here. And so these ceilings in the hallway are plasterboard, and you can tell that by tapping, which I'll do now, and it's more of a resonant, hollow sound. We can clearly tell the difference. The ceilings are generally fine, there's no major problems. There is some cracking along the joints of the plasterboard, but that's fairly common. They just need to be filled during redecoration. There's no major problems there. So now moving on to walls and partitions, the internal walls and partitions, section F3. So in this section we are checking for any internal settlement of the walls and partitions, and we're also going to get the moisture meter out and check for dampness. Along this front wall there is some significant dampness, as we have alluded to previously. So I can tell that this plaster is completely shot and it's damp. And we're getting lots of red readings here, and it's even damp, feels damp to the touch. And obviously that's potentially quite dangerous because we've got electrics there as well. Here along this front wall we do have a penetrating dampness to the external front elevation wall, and that would appear to be caused by the climbing plants and potentially the rainwater goods. I see here at upper level there is some condensation and mould, completely different to the penetrating dampness which we have here. The dampness persists in this room in exactly the same manner and is even more pronounced, and you don't need a moisture meter. You can tell very clearly that there's a problem. The walls are significantly stained and damp, and the plaster is defective. And so what needs to happen is the plaster up to the affected area needs to be removed, obviously the plant removed, which is the cause of the problem, the guttering fixed if that is also a contributory factor, and the walls then need to be allowed to dry out before being replastered and redecorated. So now we're going to look at floors, section F4 floors. I'm just going to be walking around. I'll be doing some stamping, some jumping. Usually at this point, if there's a dog in the property, then they go mad. I'm just checking that the floors are generally firm and level, and there's no significant bounce or deflection, etc. Okay, so section F5, fireplaces, chimney breasts and flues. In this particular case, there are chimney breasts within the property, however there are no fireplaces benefiting the property. So the fireplaces are used by the wider house below and to the side. For an unused chimney breast, we would recommend that it is vented, however presumably the fireplace is open below. Okay, so section F6, built-in fittings. So we're going to look at the kitchen fittings here. The cupboards, I'll open them, a bit stiff there, but generally okay. And again, slightly dated, but perfectly functional. Okay, so next section, F7, internal joinery. So I'm going to look at the staircase. I'm going to look at the skirting boards. I'm looking for any decay to the timbers, rot, woodworm to any of the internal joinery. I'm also looking at the decorations and if any replasterings required, etc. So doors are a little bit stiff, but okay. Lovely old period doors there. Okay, skirting boards around this damp area here I'm going to pay particular attention to. Looking for rot. So there is a certain amount of moisture content there, but there doesn't appear to be any decay. However, they are at risk of decay if left too long, and wood boring, beetle infestation, etc. So moving into the bathroom, I'm checking the taps. So taps work okay. Make sure the sink's not loose against the floor. Again, the bath taps. I'm having a look at the seals around the bath, and I'll flush the loo as well. Make sure that all functions okay. Sometimes they're fitted with a Saniflow macerator, particularly basement flats, and they can be problematic. But there's no major problems here. So it's quite important to have an extractor fan fitted to bathrooms as well as in kitchens. Ideally that comes on when the light comes on and has a sort of timer of sort of 5–10 minutes. In this case there's no extractor fan, and you can see that there is some condensation and mould